Hi, narcissists. I'm talking to the people who make videos like this one. Anyway, where am I going to start today? Let's see. So yeah, retirement. Um, Going to live up a hill in Scotland, near solitude, far away from city bustle, racing rats. And how do you spend your downtime? Watching YouTube probably isn't the best use. Write a book. It's slow. It's boring. How do you beat the tedium? Yeah, you practice inertia. You sit in your sedentary chairs and you consume. You consume opinions pouring from assholes like diarrhea on videos. But you're not paying for those videos because this platform is free. And if it wasn't free, nobody would be subscribing. Don't kid yourselves. VJs. So, objectivity's long since left the building. And as an economics grad, from a political background, I follow politics. But pop culture is what excites me. Those geeks and nerds that usually like that stuff, they were never my peers. I just wasn't ever bullied at school, and girls usually liked my pretty face. Well, when it was young and I had a fine head of hair. But, I had options, and I'm not one of those fugly little shit tube twerps who never lost their cherry till they were fucking like 30 years old. Marry the first girl that gives them the time of day. And now they suck the Google cash tit because it's easier than a 9-to-5 job or something. I don't know. Anyway, get the cheap plaque, the silver plaque for 50,000 non-paying subscribers. Those subscribers, they're basically sad sheeple that just want to feel like they belong somewhere, and so aren't very discerning about who they listen to. So anyway, I was going to talk about a few things. That behind me is the what's known as Red Hulk, and he appears in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Captain America 4 Brave New World, which I was going to talk about. It's a piece of media, popcorn media, and and obviously anybody watching this, if they've seen the thumbnail, they'll know what it is. So I don't need to explain it. It's the Disney Corporation has brought you another film from the pages of Marvel Comics. Now, I used to read Marvel Comics as a child. I remember as a 6-year-old, one day my dad came home quite late from work. He ran his company, and he used to keep long hours. And he came back, and then this was about 1976. I'd be about 6 years old. He came back with this hardback book, an annual. Something that was quite popular in the UK in those days for kids, And so it's a hardback book, and it contains reprints of Marvel Comics stories, and this annual was Spider-Man, and it had a white cover and Spider-Man in a sort of crouching position on the front, and inside was a reprint of the very famous 1960s Steve Ditko and Stan Lee storyline featuring Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus, and Peter Parker, Spider-Man's girlfriend, Betty Brant, at the time his girlfriend. It was before MJ was his girlfriend, and after, and before was it before Gwen Stacy? Anyway, it was Betty Brant, the receptionist at the Daily Bugle, where he worked as a photographer, and she had a brother, and he was involved in gangland crime, and he gets shot at the end of the story. Um, I think he's working for Doctor Octopus, and it's on this boat. And I remember it. I'll never forget it. It's the first piece of Marvel entertainment I ever read. And after that, I started watching the syndicated '60s show, Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That one. Um, and as a 7-year-old, I like that. And anyway, then I started reading the weeklies from Marvel UK, which were basically black and white reprints, weekly comics. And, a few years later, I graduated to going to the import store where my dad would buy me the US comics. Anyway, so I read Marvel comics for probably about 30 years. I had a big collection. I sold it off 20 years ago. I should have kept it. But, it was kept very nicely. I had a long run of Amazing Spider-Man issues, about 500 of them, going back to the early 70s. And anyway, I digress. So anyway, yeah, Captain America, Brave New World. Formerly New World Order, but that was a bit on the nose, so they changed that one. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, just like the comics, is intertwined storytelling in a wider universe of characters and dimensions, and all that stuff. And anyway, these films used to be really popular. They've been making them for what, 15, 20 years. Disney's been making them for over a decade, and they used to be very popular, and so much so that the most popular film in terms of box office revenue receipts, not adjusted for inflation, was a film called Avengers Endgame, which came out just before the pandemic and made $3 billion, and it overtook Avatar. But anyway, these films used to be hugely popular. I remember I used to run a quiz over at the IMAX that my partner runs. Years ago, I used to host a quiz, very, very, very highbrow, and we always used to get more people at the quiz whenever we do like cosplay or Marvel theme, and so anyway, this was a big phenomenon. But lately, the Disney Corporation, having adopted DEI and woke policies and a sort of political agenda to the left, has undermined the storytelling that was inherent in Stan Lee, the creator of most of the Marvel Comics characters, the main ones. And they've undermined the storytelling, and they've changed it into something, that runs with modern woke audiences. I mean, or rather, the minority modern woke audience, and not the majority. The majority aren't woke, I assure you. Even the Gen Zs are like swinging back round to how us Gen Xers used to think. So really, you've got a certain demographic that embrace all the woke, trans, feminist, any activist lobby you can think of. They embrace all this sort of socialism, doused stuff, but that's not what the Marvel Universe depended on for their books. They depend on regular people who are into the stories and the characters, and they dropped the ball, and now their films are less successful and than their peak with Avengers Endgame. But anyway, so the shit tube incel consensus seems to be that Marvel was great up until Avengers Endgame. Really? I mean, that film was so great. Uh, well, obviously it wasn't. It was a mess. But the VJs, the YouTube VJs, all require an angle to build their endless rhetoric upon. So now we have the Phase 4 schism. So, we're into Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the fourth phase of movies, a wave of movies all intertwined, with a culmination film at some point, which will tie up the storylines. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, the hypocrisy it's off the scale. I mean, so it's fine to enjoy dumb popcorn movies from, say, the 80s or the 90s on their entertainment merits. But now, if a new film is deemed undesirable because it's too woke, or um, it's not what they deem worthy, the nitpickers, they inevitably start nitpicking in order to try and control or try and maintain control of the narrative. You know, I don't have to endorse corporations effusively in order to acknowledge the fact I think they're necessary, and whether you like it or not, the Disney Corporation, which isn't a very nice corporation, you've seen what they do with some of their to some of their political adversaries who they used to hire and now don't. Naming no names, Gina Carano. But the Disney Corporation, it's the same as all corporations. It has the same parameters and the same agenda, but it's shareholder driven. They want to make money. But in this day and age of endless social interaction platforms and endless debate, you've got to hit a political note in order to get traction for what you're selling, it seems. And jumping onto bandwagons for political lobbies, whatever form of activism or that entails, is very useful to sort of get the message across that you've got a product you want to sell. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, corporations are necessary. Obviously, I'm not detracting from the good that capitalism brings to civilization. It's certainly better than the alternatives. It's not perfect, but I don't know. I think about it in terms of who I like and who I dislike in pop culture. Obviously, I could talk about any number of pop culture figures, but the ones that some of the ones that spring to mind. I mean, there's this pious Hollywood filmmaker. Okay, he's British, Chris Nolan, right? A massive pompous stuffed shirt. I mean, he's lauded for his moral integrity and his principles. When the guy basically sells the entire audience massive PR lies that you can easily be rebutted just by glancing at the VFX credits of the end of his fucking films. I mean, people like this are the problem, but it seems to be the powers that be want to promote false gods, the wrong people. Let's be fucking honest here. If ShitTube wasn't free, then nobody would still be watching, and all these sucker VJs would have to emerge from their home studios and rejoin the world of real toil. Actually, the content creator autocracy on ShitTube kind of reminds me of the European Union. You know, being a Brit, a Brexit voter. Proud. Brexit voter and proud, by the way. Shame we didn't get Brexit, but that's another story. And, anyway, the European Union, right? Where where all of the abject failures in domestic European politics, they go, or they get sent there to, throw in the moral towel, take the easy money, and they don't have to answer to anything democratic because of, Brussels immunity. Um, and I think of it is a very good analogy. I'm talking too long here. This was only supposed to be 10 minutes. But anyway, there's this guy on YouTube, right? He's huge. He's quite huge. He gets on TV a lot now as well. A Scottish guy, which is interesting because Scotland's where I live, and he's a young guy. He's in his 30s. The Critical Drinker. He has a real name, but it's so ordinary and boring I can't even remember it. Anyway, he calls himself the Critical Drinker. Get it? Because he's Scottish, and so therefore he's got some form of alcoholism, apparently. Anyway, he's the epitome of everything that's wrong with the world and pop culture, and how we view pop culture, and how we imbibe it. Get it? He's a miserably Scottish fake. In a former life, he wrote pulp war novels that about 500 people read. Now he's a shit-tube billionaire or something. I mean, fucking bravo, jockey. I mean, your opinions don't mean shit. Honestly, they don't. They don't mean liquid shit. It's easy to just hate everything and just say everything's garbage because you don't agree with the people that make it. Therefore, it's not worthy of your consumption. Oh dear, I'm so tired. It really is boring. Do you know what? I'm going to end this rant because I'm bored of hearing myself talk. But there'll be another one at some point. Take care, folks.